Okay.
recording. We're set. Rob, I turn it over to you to take it away for Ignite session for your database is your business.
Okay. First of all, let me say, actually, I really there's some things I like to teach and other things I love to teach. This is one of those things I love to teach because I've really been converted on how important your database is. And if any of you were on the 9 a.m. call, I talked about how I came from a really crappy office initially. And the great thing is, like, whenever you're in a crappy situation, whether it's an office or a relationship, and then you get in a really good one, you're like, wow, what a difference. Where sometimes if you go into a really good one, you kind of expect like, oh, this is the way it is all the time. You know, oh yeah, my spouse will always remember my anniversary, you know, that kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, that's not always the case. Anyways, I do really like teaching database. I think most people, we introduced ourselves yesterday, but Duran, what's your background?
My background, I have been and I still am a production accountant.
Oh, cool.
So just, you know, doing accounting on different television and movie projects. I've been trying this part-time, and I'm taking it a little more seriously now that I have a little more time, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
Great, great. And yeah, I think we're all here. Okay, so one thing I'm going to start off with is when any of us teach, sometimes some of you are going to love the person teaching, and sometimes you're really not going to like us that much. And I mentioned, if any of you were in the class yesterday, I mentioned the idea of like the DISC. There's 4 different personality traits, major ones. There's also different styles. And one of the things that you'll notice is like if somebody, let's say, I have a really good friend of mine who's a realtor. He does all of his lead generation through cold calling. So you just know that between, I think it's 11 a.m. All the way to 3 p.m., he's going to be in his office, door closed, cold calling all day long. And that's what he does. And so when I first got into the business, I was like, oh, this is what I should do because this is what Mario's doing. So I tried to do it and I was like, oh, just shoot me now. I'm like, oh my God, just, ugh. I couldn't stand it. I tend to be more of a networking type person. Like if I went to networking events, you know, that kind of thing. And for me, I'm the kind of person, like I'll show up to an event like that and I will shut the place down. You know, it's 11:30 and they're like, we need to sweep the floors, get out of here. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I'll go. He's the type, he would go to one of those events and he told me after 15 minutes, I'm telling my wife, let's get out of here. I can't stand this anymore. So his approach to how he generates leads and my approach are completely different things. And one thing you're going to start to learn is a lot of real estate is going to reflect who you are. You can't really copy somebody else. You can gain insights and you can get tips and you can modify it to who you are. And it could even be where you're at in your life at that moment, but it's going to be a reflection of how you like to do business, what your strengths are, what you're good at, what your sphere of influence is. All of those things come into play. So like for me, when I first got in the business, I mentioned yesterday, I already had a pretty big database of people that I knew from various things. And I used to do IT for years. So I had all those people that I still kept in contact with. And so I just kind of generated from there. If somebody's starting brand new into the business and they don't have that, then they're going to start to generate their leads in a different sort of way. So just want to put that out there that please don't take everything I'm saying as like, oh my God, this is gospel truth. I got to do exactly how he does it, because we all are going to do this differently and we're all going to have different areas. I happen to be senior certified, and that's by the National Association of Realtors. You take a couple courses and literally you can take a couple courses, you get certified, and then that's it. Stick it on your card and forget it. And you can leave it at that. I don't. I really work that, and I work that a lot. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, but I really work that senior aspect. I also happen to be certified in first-time home buyer, and I'm certified in 1031 exchange loans. I don't do any of that crap, okay? I mean, if it comes up, yes, I do help first-time home buyers. If it comes up, I do know how to do a 1031 exchange, and yay, that's nice, but I don't focus that on my business. Other people I know, that's all they do. You know, I know some people, I know one realtor, all she sells is churches. Literally, that's all she does. Everybody knows her as the church lady, but she just sells churches, and she helps negotiate that. She understands all the intricacies of that, and that's her niche that she works on. So her approach to business is going to be vastly different than any of our approaches. So I kind of want to put that out there as we talk about our database, because our database is going to reflect a lot of how we do business as well. So here we go, people. The next slide, it starts to talk about what we're going to focus on, and we can actually just, honestly, we can skip those because we've talked about those a lot. The stuff that you normally focus on is going to be how you do your business, such as lead generating, the presentations, your buyer and listing presentations, previewing real estate, getting to know your market, and then running your business, the stuff going on for your business. And this is going to look differently for everybody. I made a mistake, well, not a mistake, but the first office I started at, I was like, I'm brand new to this, so what should my day look like? And somebody printed out, basically, somebody who generates about 20 to 30 deals a year, what their normal day looks like. And that would include somebody who does like the cold calling for 4 hours a day. So I looked at that and I'm thinking, this doesn't work for me at all. And not because I don't want to do it, but literally like 3 hours of it was negotiating deals. I'm like, I don't have a single deal. I have nothing to negotiate. And then I was like, well, what do I do with this? And they said, well, get listings. And literally that was my training, get listings. I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. So when we talk about running your business and we talk about these things, this is going to ebb and flow too. So understand that as well. But when we talk about lead generating, that is something that should be a priority and you want to spend time with. And that is the great thing about having a really well-maintained database, because it helps you lead generate. It helps you to do that, and it makes you stronger in that too. So let's skip ahead to the big picture, which is this one here, Ed. Okay.
I think it didn't hear you.
So we're going to talk about what a database is, and that sort of thing. First of all, I want you guys to tell me what you think a database is. What are some of the key things that are in a database?
Your
great.
contacts.
Contacts. Okay, great. What else?
Vendors that and the vendors.
Vendors. Okay.
Networking.
Networking. Even some of the key things that are part of the contacts. I mean, any of the little things.
Well, you would have like notes about family and kids and maybe like vacations they had planned. So when you follow up with them, you have actual details to go off of.
Excellent. Yeah. What else?
Neighborhood, the neighbors.
Right. Their neighbors, their neighborhood. Anything else?
Schools.
Schools. Yeah.
The parents in the school.
Right. Okay. The more you guys would talk about, the stronger your database becomes. A contact, and it'll break it down. We're going to talk about there's a difference between a lead and a contact. And, the simple difference is a lead is where you have their information and it's one way. You only have their information. A contact is you've actually interacted with them. Okay. So, wow, that's the big mystery. Ooh. But that's the difference between the two. Once they've gotten to know who you are and there's that two-way thing, then that becomes more of a contact. Okay, pretty simple. But the more you grow in that, the stronger it is. You guys were mentioning some things about like birthdays, their kids, all of that sort of thing. That all makes a database stronger. Let me give you an example. And by the way, here's a great tip on how to strengthen your database. I use this all the time and it works. Oh my God, it works. Anybody that you have their Facebook contact info with, if they have posted that when their birthday is, it'll come up when you go into the events section, you can click on birthdays, and then everybody's birthday who's coming up, it'll list it in there. And so you can go ahead and put that down. Now, let's say for instance, I'm gonna pick on you, Eric. Let's say I have Eric and I have his contact in there, and all I have in there is maybe an email address, and I have his Facebook contact and his phone number. And sometimes you don't even have, all of that. You just have a little bit of that. But I know his birthday's coming up. So I've done this where I've emailed or I've texted and I've said, hey, I know you have a birthday coming up and I'm going to send you a birthday card, but I need an address to send it to. Do you know that almost every time I get their address now? Because I've asked it in a really friendly, and I'm going to send them a card, obviously, but in a really friendly way. And it kind of creates also that stronger relationship, because now I've interacted with Eric beyond the idea of, oh, this is just a contact, or, oh, this is just real estate. Now the relationship is a little bit more, because now we're talking about his birthday. And now I'm going to send him a birthday card, which is really personalized. Okay. Then I have his address too. Now I know where he lives. Now I kind of know all of that information with it too, which also allows me where, let's say I have a mailer that's going to go out, or I do Christmas cards, or I do, I 4th of July cards, whatever, that kind of stuff. I can send that out, and now I have somewhere to send it to. And it's not that kind of, it's a very informal and friendly way of gathering information. Now, I did have a friend of mine who, she has got 3 kids, and she lives in a city close to me, Hacienda Heights. So she posted that her daughter, Lisa, on Monday, she turned 26. And I messaged her and went, holy crap, I can't believe Lisa's already 26. And I said, none of your kids should be that age. And she goes, oh no. And she goes, yeah, Lisa's 26, Cassandra is 25 on the following Monday, and Brandon in February 14th, I think it was, he turns 24. Bingo. You know what I did? I added all 3 kids to the database. I already have her home address. So now I've already sent Cassandra, I sent Lisa her card. Cassandra's card is sitting on my desk. It's going to go out in the mail today. But now I also have a note that when Brandon in February comes up, I'll send him a card. That really strengthens that relationship, not only to her, but then also to the kids. And as a referral, it'll be like, yeah, Rob really pays attention to even my kids' birthdays. And so it builds that relationship up, okay? One thing you want to look at, I want you to, on the slide that you guys see, there's a few key words that I pulled out of this. One is a well-tended database. This is not a set it and forget it, okay? I came from, before I did real estate, I did IT work for over 20 years, and I did tech support in the graphic industry. So I did a lot on, like in all the graphic art stuff, Adobe Photoshop, Premiere, Illustrator. I worked in the entertainment industry. I supported a lot of their stuff, and so on. But what I brought into some of my personal relationships, and you can ask my fiance about this, that became an issue and I've had to work through, is I got very used to, I would fix a problem and then it should be done. It should never come back because I fixed it. So I just set it and forget it. But most things in life are not that way. Relationships are not that way. A garden is not that way, and your database is not going to be that way. It's something that you're going to continually maintain. There's going to be times you're going to weed it out. You're going to have people in there that like, okay, for whatever reason, I'm going to delete them out of my database. And I used to have a hesitancy of doing that because, oh no, I don't want to delete that person. But I ended up learning that when I deleted that person, that freed me up to then give attention to people who I do want to work with. So don't be afraid to delete people out of your database if they should be deleted, because it's like you're weeding out your database. It's like you're gardening. At the same time, you're going to try and get new people into your database, and that's going to be your seeds. That's going to be how you grow that. Okay. So it's like a living thing. One of the other things in here is, I want you, on the second one, it helps mature and manage relationships. Hear me on this, okay? 75%, and it ranges, because sometimes you'll hear 70, sometimes you'll hear 83, but we're just gonna say 75% of all your deals come from people you know, okay? Let me say that again. 75% of all your deals come from people you know. So that means that if you're building a relationship with them, then they're going to be the best place that you're going to end up doing your business. I can tell you that when I first started in real estate, that the first few years, all I did was list homes, and all they were from people I knew from doing all that computer work for years, because they already knew me. It wasn't all the new people. However, our industry, there's a ton of vendors out there that will show you the shiny new thing. You know, like, oh, do this and you can get leads. Oh, and at one point it was Zillow leads about 10, 15 years ago. And now there's like a plethora of other things out there. Realtor.com has that. There's an OpCity that will offer that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Well, they're trying to sell you something is what they're trying to do. And I'm not saying it's all evil, but what I am saying is that's 20% of what your business is. The 80% really comes from your database, and that's where you want to spend the majority of your time. The thing is, though, is that that's not pulling you every day to do it. What's pulling you are those emails and those texts from third-party people saying, oh, this is what you need. So just make sure that as you start to get that, you filter it, because you want to focus on what's going to generate your business. Any questions on that one? Okay, good. Even my dogs are here and they're not asking questions, so I just want to make sure.
I have a question about, do you ever get feedback on, like for instance, there's a realtor who has mailed me like materials, and then after he mails me, each time he emails me and asks me if I got what he sent me. And one time, it was just something irrelevant he sent me. I don't know. It was just some piece of paper with some writing on it. And I didn't respond to his email. So then his assistant emailed me, and then I didn't respond to her. And then she responded to me that I've read her email, I've opened her email, and I haven't responded to her.
Ooh.
And I was like, this is insane. I'm not dealing with this.
No, actually, yeah, that's okay. Some of the email systems, if you actually go through a system like MailChimp and a few other things, they'll notify you. Like if you send out an email blast, they'll notify you how many people actually opened up your email and who they were. It can even get as detailed. Let's say you put a video in there, because video is right now, like social networking and email, video is still the king. If you put a video in something, everybody watches it, kind of. The rule of thumb on video is you got to keep it under a minute, and about 75% of people will watch about 75% of the video. So that's the reason why if you keep it under a minute, you get more people watching the video, and not everybody is going to, but those are the metrics with it. The fact that she did that, that's not nurturing a relationship. That's really more of like, gotcha, and why aren't you paying attention to us? And it did the opposite. It pushed you away. So, yeah, I mean, it would. It is kind of creepy. Like, oh my God, yeah. And it's almost an entitlement, It's like, I sent you an email, you read it or opened it and you didn't respond. I'm entitled to a response. No, you're not. You're not entitled. In fact, if your email was actually worth a damn, I would have responded to it, but obviously it wasn't. I've been sending out emails ever since the lockdown for COVID. And honestly, it's been one of the most effective things I've done when it's come to marketing, because it's very personal. I always started off with a thing about my mom, and it is that kind of thing. I love my mom. My mom is like one of my closest friends too, but people will not, like I've had I've had 2 people tell me to unsubscribe while I'm sending it out. And now this has been going on every week ever since the lockdown began. But I get a lot of responses back like, oh my God, your mom was so cute when she was a kid, you know, and that kind of thing. And then I know that they've read the rest of it. I also keep it short and sweet. I try to make it like, if I get an email like this, will I appreciate it? And it'll want you then to read the email. But I don't ever expect somebody like, oh, sorry, I just sent you an email. You need to take time out of the day and read my email because I sent it to you. No, you know, if I were to do that, yeah, no. So that's bad realtor. But and that's exactly what we're talking about. What they're going to think is, oh, they're in my database, and so I'm entitled to that. No, you're not entitled to anything. You know, we're not entitled to anything. But what we're doing is we're building those relationships that when it comes up, you're going to be front of mind. I'm skipping ahead because basically everybody moves at national averages. People move about every 10 years, and it's going to vary. You know, for some of us who are in California and, you know, they're Prop 13'd in and they have their parents' property taxes, they're not going to be moving too soon because they're not going to want to give those up. Hi, I'm one of them. I bought my parents' house. So, I've been here, oh my God, I've been here for 30 years. And so I'm that other, you know, side of it. Then you have other people that they move every few years. So they're making up the difference. Yay. But if somebody moves on an average every 10 years and you're talking to them in year 5 or 6, they're not ready to move. And okay, that's fine. If you keep in touch with them, as they start to approach year 10, that's when they're gonna, if you're front of mind, you're gonna be the one most likely they will call. Now, you're not entitled to it. You don't know if Aunt Bertha is out there and she's got a real estate license and they're gonna use her. And if that happens, it happens. It's happened to me, okay? That's just the way it is. I called a client just the other day and I found out she moved, which means she sold her condo. But I also found out that it was basically that same sort of thing. She had a relative that isn't an active realtor, but it was her relative and that's who she's going to use. And okay, that's the way it is. I'm not entitled to that. But as soon as I started talking to her on the phone, she started talking to me about real estate. So I knew I was front of mind. It's just, that's the way it is. But we have that relationship. Now, the last time I've seen her, literally seen her in person, was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Had I not sent emails to her, had I not called her every so often, she would be like, Rob, who? Oh my God, that's right, you know, sort of thing. So that's why we're talking about a database. Okay, let's go over to the next one. Oh, we already covered this. Yay, what do you think a database is? Some of the stuff too that you're going to put in a database that's going to strengthen it. You guys already brought up some of those things. Birthdays, anniversaries, and some of the stuff that you're going to hear, if any of you are brand new, you're going to hear like, oh, don't forget their home anniversary. Yeah, that's true. Now, if you haven't sold anything yet, guess what? There's no home anniversaries to celebrate. I get that, okay? But maybe there's other things you can look at. You know what's really effective is people's pets. That's another one. You know, like, oh, I saw a picture of your dog online. You know, what's your dog's name? How old is your dog? What, you know, all that kind of stuff. And because I want to maintain relationships, I've had some people that, you know, they've posted, hey, we just lost, like one of my contacts, she lost her dog Teddy a little while ago. I literally have pet sympathy cards, and I sent her a pet sympathy card. And I have that all in my notes too. And that way I can, you know, maintain that. When you build up a database, you know I did that. I don't remember exactly when I did that. So the other effective thing about a database is when you're recording this, you can remember when this happened. Teddy passed away on this day. I sent a card on this day. And you have a record of all that sort of thing. It really helps you on all of that. There's going to be 3 levels, and you see those on the screen. The essential stuff, basic, name, contact, you know, and how they want to communicate. Then when we go to the next one, you're going to have, obtain permission. Now, if you already know these people, you already have permission, okay? But the reason why they put obtain permission in there, what if you're getting, well, I'll just put it out there, Zillow leads, okay? You don't know who these people are. So you're getting this lead and then you're obtaining that permission. Even more so, what if you've gotten a list of people that's in a neighborhood that you've never met before, but you want to farm that neighborhood? You want to market yourself to that neighborhood. And if you guys haven't heard the term of farm, it literally is like farming. You're planting seeds. That's what you're doing. You're picking an area, you're planting seeds, you're hoping for your business to grow out of those seeds. Farming a neighborhood, get it? So when you're in that scenario, and let's say you have those kind of, that kind of information in there, you have permission to contact them. Because if somebody says, I don't want to ever hear from you again, well, then you don't have permission. And people will talk about the law in this. And one thing that is always having to be said, if somebody's on a do not call list, you have to respect that. The do not call list, by the way, some of you may be frustrated with as well. Once, like, let's say you were to tell me, hey, put me on your do not call list. Okay, great. What if I got that call list from a vendor, okay? And the vendor gave that out to 100 people. Well, there's potential that they're gonna still get 100 other calls from other people. So as you guys know, sometimes we get bombarded with the same phone calls, and it's a great idea, but it's hard to match everything up. So that's the reason why sometimes the cold leads and so on, when they get really upset, you kind of can't blame them. They've asked to be put on a do not call list, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's your do not call list. That's not everybody's do not call list. But once you have permission, then you can start to interact with them. And your database is going to reflect this. We're going to talk about tags in a little bit, like how you tag someone, but some of those tags could be things you have in common. Are they a pet owner? You know, do they have dogs? Do they have cats? Are they into cars? What are their hobbies? Do they belong to any associations? Are they involved in the community? Do they have any favorite charities? All of that kind of stuff starts to collect more information, and it allows you, if you're entering this information, to go ahead and better connect with them. Because then in your database, what you can do is you can even group this together. You can say, hey, everybody who is, you know, a dog owner, put them in the same group, and then you just search for dog owners. And then boom, you can send out an email to all of those people. What, you know, that kind of stuff. Wow, look at the new doggy house that's on the market. It could be a joke. But, you know, humor captures actually a lot of goodwill. So that's a good way of working. Another part of it is what you want to do is you want consistent communication with people. Yeah, I mentioned that I send out, you know, now an email about once a week, and I keep it short and sweet. I don't make it to one of those things like it takes me 4 to 5 hours to put together. I make it, you know, it takes me about 45 minutes to put together, because I want somebody to look at it and say, oh, you know what? In 3 minutes, I can read everything I need to read and I'm done. Because if you send out a novel, you know, like when you get those Christmas or Hanukkah newsletters and you're like, oh my God, this is 5 pages long, single-sided. I don't have time to read this. You don't. But I sent out a newsletter and it literally is half a page, double-sided with a lot of photos. So people have even told me, oh my God, in 2 to 3 minutes, I know what you did the entire year. Bingo. And so everybody kind of reads it. There's going to be different, when you get onto, Ed Skip, yay. When you get to communicating, there's going to be a different conversion rate, and there's different touches. And the touches can be anywhere from the really personal touches, like an email, a text. And we're in a society now where a lot of people want to be text even more than email because it's more convenient. And my mom, she's 82 years old, and her and I text each other all the time. And my mom, and at first I was like, okay, my mom, she's just gonna, no, my mom can be a smart ass in texting me too. She's funny as hell. So it's really kind of cute. And some people prefer that. Other people, a phone call, they prefer that. That's that personal sort of touch. Then you have like the mass email, the ones like I just mentioned that I send out about once a week. And you kind of know because it's not, you know, directed. Everybody knows like, oh no, this is just the general newsletter email. That's fine. Then you have like really personal stuff, like sending out a birthday card, you know, sending out even just a card. Hey, just thinking of you today. Hope you're doing great, blah, blah, blah. You know, that sort of thing. All of that kind of stuff creates those different touches that come into play. And a good CRM, and Keller Williams has Command, that's part of it, is they will help you facilitate that. Hey, nope, that's delivery. My dogs want to bite. Nope, you know better. So, see, he's delivering something and it's personal. Okay, one of the things that I send out, for instance, and I want everybody to get this too. I get the fact that some of you starting off in real estate, your budget is low for marketing. Totally get that. And I've been there. I mean, like when I started off in real estate, there were a few days I told Jamal, my fiance, I'm like, oh crap, the electric bill came in. We're doing okay, but we're cutting it kind of close. So totally understand that. When you can do some things though that do make your clients feel a little bit extra special. One thing that I've sent out is like, this is a magazine called American Lifestyle, and it's got, you know, photo in the front, it's got contact information in the back, and every so often it has like, hey, you can pull out and you can, here's this little note card where it's got a recipe on the back, but it's got all these cool little articles in it. Stuff about, hey, here's the latest ceramics from Arizona. Okay, fine, whatever. But some people are going to read it. I've actually contacted people on my list that I send this to, and I've gotten really good feedback. Now, do I send that out to all of my people? No. I've gone into my database and I've listed the priority of like, hey, these are my VIP people. And my VIP people, or the people I want to become my VIP people, I send that magazine out to. An example, I've had a few clients do business with me or refer me a lot of business. Great. They're one of the ones that gets that magazine. I have a developer out there that is doing a lot of developing in my hometown. Well, I'd like to be one of their point people to sell some of those homes. So you better believe he's getting one of those magazines too. That's another way in which I'm creating a touch. It is outside of Command. So I want to let you know that don't think all your touches have to be within Command. But you want to have a record of all of this so you remember like, oh yeah, this person got this person got this. I just got the Excel list of everybody I'm sending this out to. So now what I can do is I can go into Command and I know the mail date for this and I can enter that in. Hey, this magazine went out on this date. Then like what you were saying, then I can do a follow-up call, and I'm not going to act entitled. Did you read the whole magazine? You should have. I paid money for that. No, I'm not going to do that. But I can call and I can say, hey, Monica, just wondered, did you get the magazine? Oh, cool. Did you like it? You know, okay, great. No problem. Just want to let you know I'm taking care of you. It could be that short because the marketing's already in the magazine. They already know I'm a realtor. They know what's going on. You know, if I want to follow that up, hey, by the way, want to let you know, we do have a really good market in the area right now. If you know anybody who's thinking about buying or selling, please let me know. You can add that on. You may not want to. That's up to you. And you know your database, you know your contacts, but it's a way to get you that relationship that keeps building, okay? At the same time, all that kind of stuff, you lead with the relationship and then the marketing really helps. If you lead with marketing, you know, like you're giving away magnets to everybody in the neighborhood, a good chance a lot of those magnets are not going to be that effective for you, you know, just saying. So if you're going to, you know, farm a neighborhood, you may not want to spend money on magnets. But let's say you have farmed a neighborhood and you get responses from 3 people. Send the magnets to those 3 people because then you can build that sort of relationship. Is that clear? Somebody nod your head. I'm like, okay. Okay.
That's clear.
Okay, thank you. You can ask Ed. We've done this, and when you don't have an audience right in front of you, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, teaching on Zoom is a learned skill because the response that you're used to isn't there, and sometimes you're wondering like, is anybody hearing this? And,
Yeah, I know. You know, does anybody, are they just attending, but on the, you know, their side screen, they have kitty videos playing? Who knows?
It's going great, Rob.
Okay, why use a database?
You're doing good.
Thank you. Why use a database? I'll tell my mommy. The Today Trap. Oh my God, I got so caught up in this. I really did. I sat in, when I first came into Keller Williams, because I told you I was at a crappy, you know, place for a year, another brokerage. So I came into Keller Williams and I finally imported my database. I had 1,600 contacts. Now, and this is, again, everybody's going to start off different. Somebody brand new to real estate, they may have 40 contacts. So then their focus is, I need to work those contacts and add more contacts. Great, then that's the direction you need to go in. For me, it was like, holy crap, I've got 1,600. First, let me go through all these contacts. Well, you know, any of you who have, especially, you know, like you've used the same sort of phone for years. I've had an iPhone since they came out. I have contacts of past boyfriends that I never want to talk to again. So why are they still in there? Okay, they're going out of my database. So there were people that's like, they're going out of my database. My sister's ex-husband, he went out of the database. You know, all of that stuff, clean that up. So I went from 1,600 contacts to 1,201 contacts. And that was the initial cleaning. And I've talked about gardening, right? So that was like the first time I went out and I weeded everything. Then after that, I started modifying it. I went contact through contact and I started reaching out to people. And as I did that, I started tending it. I started adding information in. I added birthdays if I came across it. I found out, oh, this is a bad phone number. Oh, and then I would contact them. Hey, you know what? I tried to text you and I wasn't able to get a text back. Did you change your phone number? You know, I just wanted to say hi, that sort of thing. And it's an ongoing thing. Now I'm in that sort of idea. But that Today Trap is you put your database aside and you're just going to be like, who needs to buy or sell today? And then you're always going to be in that mode. Oh my God, who's going to buy or sell today? Who's going to buy or sell today? But if you're working a database and you start to build that up, what's going to happen is you don't have to worry about that, because then slowly it's going to generate on its own. You're going to be able to really work that database because people know you. People want to work with people they know and people who they like. Okay, so one, you have to be likable. If you ain't likable, you may want to look at approaching business differently. But if people like you, then you're going to be able to do business better, okay? Because they want to do business with that. Let me give you a quick example. I really wanted to build my business as a referral type business. So when I first got in the business, I was like, how am I going to do this? One is I got my certification in the SRES. I told you I got a few others, but I realized the senior certification was going to be really good for me. Then I've gotten in touch with a number of the senior communities in my area. And one of them, right before the lockdown, they got a brand new director. And I even thought to myself, oh my God, I have poured a few years into the previous director and now she moved away, which a lot of times is a good thing because that means I can still work that place and then I get into the new senior place. But in this instance, she was fired. So it was like, crap, I have nowhere to go with her. But the new director, I happened to attend a number of breakfasts for a lot of the senior community people. This guy was there. I'm like, Daniel, I heard so much about you. And he's like, so did I. You know what? I have somebody that needs to move into my senior community and he really needs to sell their house. I'll send you his information. Now, it's taken a while to nurture that. And just last week, I got in finally the 2 offers and I'm going to be double-ending it. So I am going to be selling it and I'm also representing the buyer. So I get to do the whole package at once, which is really great. He has had a great relationship with me on this because I've kept in contact. I've kept him updated on everything. The sellers, because it's power of attorney situation, have kept in contact with him. They really like me. Friday, he tells me, I have somebody else that just moved in too, and they need to sell their Bixby Knolls, which is Long Beach, their Bixby Knolls condo. I don't know what it's like, but I'll give you the information. They said, whoever you recommend, we'll work with. Okay, guess what? He called me yesterday and he said, by the way, I found out the condo's beautiful. You're gonna love to sell it. Great. Oh, and I have somebody else that's going to be moving in pretty soon, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have to sell it as well. So once I get that information, I'll sell it to you. That's an example of having that database and working that contact. And we'll see it in a little bit. When you start to prioritize some of your contacts in there, who your A-list people, your VIPs, the people who I pay money to get this magazine, that's one of them, because he's the one I'm doing a lot of business with. And as I started weeding too, some of the people who like, I don't want to hear from you again, no problem, because guess what? I don't have to spend time on you. I get to spend time on Daniel, who is giving me business, who we have a good relationship. Then, and also, please keep in mind, there's that today business that I mentioned. That's about 10% of your business. But the tomorrow business is when I started sowing those seeds in February. And Daniel now is already doing business with me. Now, not everything's going to be that way. I can also be sowing seeds, and I'm not going to see that business for a few years. But you're beginning to generate that predictable business that's coming on instead of always panicking and going for the today business. Okay. The next slides, there's 3 of them that look similar. Can you skip to the last of them? Because it kind of just talks about, okay, bingo. So here's like your whole database. Example, you have 100 people in your database. Okay, are they all ready to buy and sell? Nope, not at that moment. If you, on average, you know how many people are homeowners, how many are not, you know, everybody's in different stages. Go on to the next one, you start to whittle that down. You probably have, you can go to that, bingo. Nope, next one. Nope. Okay. Okay, look at this. See, that'll help.
Okay, hold on.
That's your 10%. That's when you're going after 10% of your database that's ready to do business right here, right now. And the thing is that if you're always going after that, that's a very small potential of what you have going on. If you start to work the whole database in here, then you're going to have a constant generation and you don't have such a small pool. Because you're going to hear in this business a lot of people like, oh my God, they just got in the business and they just sold their first house 2 months later. Good for them. The rule of thumb is it really takes a while to get traction in real estate because you're getting your information out there. You're building that database. People are beginning to know who you are, what you do. You're staying front of mind and you're doing all that sort of thing. So the person who gets that fluke, good for them, but that's a fluke. That's not how people typically do it. You talk to people who've been in the business for a while, they will tell you, and I mean a while, like, 10, 15 years, they work it. They're always working and they usually have, they start to, in their database, they start to prioritize. Here's our VIP people. Here's people that they're interested in cooking and in food and that kind of stuff. They start to break all that down so they know how to connect with them. Okay, let's go to why use a database. Are we on that?
Is that the right one?
No, next one, I think. Okay, bingo.
There we go.
Return on investment, ROI. By the way, in real estate, I said this yesterday, there's a ton of acronyms that are used, ROI, CMA, blah, blah, blah. Don't use those with people unless you explain it, because people don't want to act like, and we've even seen it sometimes in our office meetings before, and now people have gotten more comfortable, but they would say, oh, what's the cap rate on that? Oh, it's blah, blah, blah. And then finally somebody would be like, what the hell is a cap rate? And then they explain what a cap rate is. So ROI, return on investment, meaning the time and energy, the money you put into something, what are you getting out of it? So the first one is the lowest lead cost. If you get Zillow leads, guess what? Zillow's not just giving them to you out of their own goodwill. You pay for those things. and they're not even great leads. And so you really have to work them. And so that's going to take you time, that's going to take you energy, and that sort of thing. If you work your database, and these are people that you know, people that know you, it's much easier to do. I mentioned yesterday, my very first listing appointment, I was called up by somebody's mother that we needed to sell her mother's home. And she's like, Rob, we need to sell mom's home. Her dementia's really bad. When you can get out of here, because I know you're not going to F us over on the price. I can be there tomorrow with a contract. Okay, sounds great. Now, not every listing appointment's going to be that way. So you need to, we'll talk about listing presentation another day. However, because she knows me, how much time and energy did I have to put into getting my first sale? Wasn't a lot, because the time and energy was the relationship that was built. Same thing with the lowest conversion cost. I had my insurance agent for my car. I've had her since I've been driving. Okay, so that makes it 38 years. So she's known me all that time. She's known me before I got into real estate. So she's known that I haven't even had my license for 5 years. I've only had it I just hit 4 years. And let's face it, she knows a ton of other realtors out there. She's an insurance agent. And she gets my emails, my once a week emails. And every once in a while, I've sent her a card and, blah, blah, blah. She sent me an email 2 weeks ago, and she said, my daughter just got married last September, and her husband are ready to buy a home. And I really wanted to recommend you. Is it okay if I send your information to them and give you their information? Yes, but that was a low cost conversion. It didn't take me a ton of energy. It was just that relationship that's been built with Wendy I've had over all these years. Back in the day, this is going to sound funny, but I actually was a junior high pastor in my early 20s. And I was really close to those kids, really, really close. And a lot of them, I still maintain relationships with them today. Well, the home that I just closed last month in Whittier was from one of those kids, because he flips apartment buildings in Seattle. And another one I have on the market right now is the other one that he's flipping, because I'm the person he knew down here in California, and he wanted me to sell the homes. So that's that sort of thing, maintaining those relationships, which when you're using the database really helps. Now, mind you, his son's birthday came around while we were talking about listing the homes. I took note of that. That's in my database. I have the kids' names. I know their address. I asked his wife too. I said, and Shirley, by the way, his wife was another one of my junior hires. So I'm really kind of locked in with him. And I asked Shirley, I said, by the way, I need to send you guys a card. What's your home address? I have their home address now in Seattle. By the way, I really want to send Daniel a nice thank you gift. What things does he like? She sent me an email with all the things that he likes. I'm actually going to buy him like a $500 high-end tequila set, because he really likes tequila. But that's that kind of stuff, that all this information I'm recording in that database. And on top of it too, let me tell you the nice part of this. On top of it, I knew a ton of people in that church. They still know who I am. There were other realtors in that church, but Daniel contacted me, which means the whole circle of people he knows that still live down here, they're not in touch with any of those realtors. So the potential that I have referrals coming from that is also a big thing about why I want to maintain this. I want to maintain that relationship, because not only do I I love Daniel. He's one of my junior hires, but it's great business for both of us too. Okay. So you guys got me on a lot of caffeine. Yeah, I already covered that. Yay. I told you I jump ahead on a lot of stuff too.
I have a question. I have a question.
Do the question, yeah.
Oh, okay. My question is, if somebody you know, do you need to give a listing presentation if they told you to sell their homes?
Oh,
somebody you know.
Honey, that all depends on who they are. I mean, literally, like I said, when Vicky, this is the one that the first listing I ever had, she's high D. Oh my God, she's high D. She runs her husband's business, 1-800-autopsy. He'd be lost without her. she's that one I knew because she's high D. I go in and she doesn't want to know, oh, here's this. I went in and I said, look, in this neighborhood, this is how much the homes are selling. These are in perfect condition. But right now, it was at a time where, I mean, real estate was just skyrocketing a miracle mile. And I said, your home probably should go for around 1.1 million. And she said, well, can we ask 1.25? And I said, you know what, if it was pristine, we could. But because it is so hot and you're on a really hot street in this market that's even better than some of the other streets, let's go for it. It was my first listing, you know, that was it. The contract was there and she signed it. That was all we had to do. I've had other ones where I sold, and I knew this woman in Outpost Estates, and I sold her house, and that was one I double end. I got both ends. And when I went there, I had everything prepared ahead of time, just in case she wanted to go over it. Now, what she said is, and because I knew her, is she said, okay, honey, she goes, let me go ahead and I'm going to read over all of this. And then do you want to come back in a couple days? I was like, sure, no problem. Because I knew, and this is, I want you to understand, you're going to hear a lot, and sometimes the generic real estate information out there, never leave without that appointment. If I would have pushed her, that would have turned her off. So if the better you know your contacts, the better you know how to tailor it to them. For her, I was like, no problem. I'll be back in a couple days. How about Thursday? I said, I'll come back right after my office meeting. She goes, okay, no problem. And I did. I came back, you know, I went up there, everything was already signed. And then her and I literally, in fact, if I remember correctly, she served me some really nice scotch, which was pretty strong. So I was on an empty stomach, so I had to stay a little bit longer than I planned. But we talked, and that's all we did, you know. But I knew her, so I was able to do that. Now, if I was to go into someone who may be a referral of hers, but I don't know her that well, I would still have everything in order, and I'd be prepared to go through everything in order. And then I may push that appointment a little bit more to sign before we leave. And in that instance, I may even take 2 contracts. And I would say, look, here's one. Why don't we sign the one that you have in front of me? And you have my word that if you want me to destroy it, I will destroy it. But then here's one that you can keep just to read and make notes and mark up and do whatever you want to do on your own. And that way you always have a copy. And then how about we talk about this in tomorrow? And if everything's good, we'll put it on the market. And that would be one way I would approach it, because I'm not sure. And so that way I make sure the contract is signed. I get a commitment. But that's because I approach it in that way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And like, is it a special contract or just whatever, you know, standard? And you go.
It'd be a listing, regular standard listing contract. Yeah. And by the way, I also wanted to let you know that like this stuff we're going through here, and a lot of stuff that you see that's nationwide, it's a lot for them to take on, because when they're trying to train people, they have to put this training together for all markets, for all approaches, for all personality types, for all people. So I'm telling you things that I've experienced from my perspective, but I'm very cognizant of how I do it, maybe different how other people do it. And, you know, and we're talking about database today, so I'm kind of approaching from that thing. If let's say I got a Zillow lead, which, yeah, long shot, but let's say I got a Zillow lead, I would very much no, I'd push several times before I left to have them sign that contract, because I don't really know these people, and they could easily go on to somebody else. And I would say the same thing to them, you know, hey, I'll tear it up beforehand, but the physical signing of it kind of already commits them to that, and I get them in that mindset. But
so is it better to make sure they sign it before you leave the first time, the people you don't know?
People you don't know, yeah, because you don't know them, and you know you don't have that relationship built with them. And and by the way, that tip I heard from somebody else: take 2 contracts, you know, and you say, look, here's another one. You can make notes. You can do this, blah blah blah. And if you want, and you want to change some things in the contract, I'm fine with, send me the changes and I'll come back with a contract and we'll just sign that one and I'll throw away the first one. But, that way you keep it where you have a signed one. You have one that's ready to go. And I did have somebody that actually, a home I sold in Downey a couple of years ago that I kind of had to make sure he signed it before I left, because I was a little and the thing is, I knew him, so I knew he might be a little bit cagey. So get him out of that caginess, I had to make sure that he signed before I left. And I did that. I took 2 contracts and I said, this way you can sign this one, and here's the other one that you can make all the notes you want to on. Crap, I've got a minute left. So I may go a little bit over. Not that much though, I promise. The marketing here, basically it's broken down. When you look at this pyramid, you're gonna see 2 things. You're gonna see there's prospecting and there's marketing. The prospecting part, that's one that it's gonna be proactive. That's when you're texting, you're calling people, you're actually doing something, like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Blah, 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 all that kind of thing. And when I say texting, it could be Facebook messaging too. Any way that there's 2-way communication, go on Snapchat, go on whatever, that kind of stuff. For those of you over 40, Snapchat's something else, just letting you know. But, you can do any of that sort of stuff, but it is time intensive. It costs you time. And so just understand that. The marketing part, that's a part that is a little bit more money intensive, but that also starts to generate the long-term thinking. Again, this magazine, that's one of those long-term thinking ones. I have a set, I had it around here. I have a thing of magnets that it's a little magnet strip like this, and it has wine pairing and like how wine pairs. And it has basically my business card at the top. So it's the idea, you stick it on the fridge, and if somebody's having fish that night, oh, well, if we're having salmon, what pairs well with salmon? And it has it right on there. Lovely, okay? That's that sort of marketing that really doesn't cost me a lot of time, but it costs me money. This is an Excel sheet that the vendor has, so it costs me money, but it doesn't cost me a lot of time. This is something, I'm unlimited, so I can go ahead and I can call, I can text as much as I want, but it costs me time. So, understand that it's a dual approach to it. Now, when it's personal, it does end up paying off more. When you use them together, that's when you get somebody like Wendy, my insurance agent, recommending her daughter. I was so honored by that. She recommended her daughter to me, not a friend, but her daughter to me. So, by the way, I sent her a thank you card with a $10 Starbucks card in it saying, thank you. I really appreciate it, because I want to let her know that. And that was
in California, how much you can spend on referrals, like for getting a referral for a gift?
Okay, you cannot buy stuff. So like, this is what you can do though. This is the funny thing. If somebody were to say, hey, Rob, I have a friend of mine, they want to sell, their house, or they want to, whatever, what do I get in it? I can't cut them a check unless they're a realtor, because we're not allowed to do that. The funny thing is, can I give them a $500 Visa card as a gift? Yes, I can. So if it's a gift, as long as it's not cash or a check, something like that, you're allowed to do that. And I know like Joey, and probably, I don't know if Ed has, but I know there's like very specific guidelines that let you know that kind of thing. But, there's times that I just do that as a thank you gift. It's like, hey, here's a $10 Starbucks card. Here's this. If it ever got to the point where somebody said, like the developer I was mentioning, somebody would say, you know what, I can do that deal for you, but I'm part of the deal. What can we do? That's when I'd be like, dude, I can't give you money unless you're licensed. But if I give you a $500 Visa card as a thank you, how's that? Because it's a gift. Yeah. That's the reason why also some of your vendors, it's funny, some of your vendors cannot, like technically your title reps cannot come in and buy you lunch, because that's considered buying business and you're not allowed to do that. However, if they come in and there's a lot of food there and it just happened to be they brought it and you want to eat it, that's kosher. You can do that. Okay. When you're in a database, like when you're in command, these are the tags that you can use. And okay, bingo. Some of the tags that I have in mind, I sent Ed a screenshot. I don't know if you have that, Ed?
Give me 1 second here. I can pull that up.
Okay. You can create your custom tags. And the reason why I sent a screenshot is I wanted you guys to see what I actually did. It's one thing to have it, you know, in the like, oh yeah, here's theory. Let me show you how I really used it. I'm very involved in my community. I'm part of the Whittier Chamber. I'm involved in charities, you know, that kind of stuff. I told you I'm involved in senior communities. So what I did is in page 1 of mine, I scrolled down and I did a screenshot of what the actual, what are some of the tags that I've used. And so in there, I told you, you know, I made contact with senior communities. Allison Young at the very top, I keep in touch with her. Every month before the lockdown, I would go to all the senior communities and I would bring a box of cookies. Now, to make it cute, I would take pictures of my dogs and I had a size and it'd say from Nalani and Kona. And I would put that on the top. So it even made it cuter and I had my business card on it. And I would just go to all the senior communities. Cost me $11 for a dozen cookies. And I'm not brilliant. Joey is the one who recommended me doing that when I started doing this. And I was like, oh my God, that's smart. So that's what I started doing. Now, because of the lockdown, today is actually my day I'm supposed to do that. So I'm going to go to Starbucks. I'm going to buy a $10 gift card for every one of those senior communities and actually put that in a note and send it to them and say, hey, as you know, this would be the time I would normally be visiting you. Because of the lockdown, I can't, but I want to let you know I'm thinking about you. Have a cup of coffee on me. Bingo. Send that to them. As you can see, I've also listed in there agent, and I even have KW agent in there. Why am I doing this? You're going to learn in KW that you can start to build up your network. When you bring somebody into KW, you get tagged as like, hey, they brought you in, and when they do deals, you get part of that deal. And it doesn't come out of the commission, so you're not hurting the agent at all. KW just does that to want to build up your downline. Well, I know as I'm going through my database who's the KW agents and who's not. So when I want to start to market KW to agents, I know who to exclude because I'm not going to market to other KW agents. They're already in KW. But the agents that are in Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Compass, all of those, yeah, now I know how to market to them. And when you go in, you can actually, you know, filter out how you want to do this. You can see there as well, I've got the Whittier Chamber. So anybody I know who's in Whittier Chamber, I can do that. And literally I can go in and go Whittier Chamber. And what if I just want to send out a blast email to all of these people? Or just individually text or whatever. I could do any of that. But I could put in and I could say, hey, just want to let you know, I'm so glad you're part of the chamber. If I can, I'm part of the chamber. I'm actually ambassador for the chamber. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. Send that off to them. But because I've individually tagged it, you can really get into this kind of detail. And instead of going into every single contact and saying, oh, they're a chamber member. Oh, they're this. With the tags, it makes it super easy to do. And it's also visual. You can choose different colors. Command is a growing thing, by the way. So we're limited on colors, which they know has been a big complaint. It's not at the top of their list to fix right now. But the more, like literally, since we're visual people, the more colors that are in there, the more that help. So like I've got my hot leads, I have as red. My warm leads, I have as orange. And it really helps because I've got a built-in search that I will sometimes go to the view at the top and I will say, hey, show me all my hot and warm leads. And I just look at all of them going down. And if any of those leads are the ones that I know that I've ignored for some reason, then I know, okay, I need to send them a text or an email or something and just re-engage with them just to make sure I'm on top of it because I know they're much, they're warmer than somebody who's just in my database. That's one of the benefits of using tags. Any questions on that, on custom tagging, categories, that kind of stuff? Okay. Oh, I kind of covered that. I told you I jump ahead a lot. There's ways to build your database. One thing they talk about in here, and we're on this page. One thing to talk about in there is around reviews. If some of you are brand new to real estate, when I first started in real estate and I heard like, oh, you need to get reviews, it's like, yeah, I haven't sold anything. So good luck with that. That's fine. I talked to people that were friends of mine or people I've worked with before, and then you just tell them outright, hey, as you know, I started doing real estate, and I was just wondering if I could get some sort of review from you. You know, something that talks about my character, something that talks about how you like working with me and that kind of stuff. And I had a number of people get back to me and write me great reviews. Two things about reviews. When you get a review, you have the link to it, but always do a screenshot. What if that company goes out of business? Or what if that company's business model changes to where your displayed views on those reviews, you have to now pay for? If you do a screenshot, you own it. The company could go belly up and you still own that review. And so I've done that. I actually did screenshots of a lot of my reviews, and on my website, there's a page that I put what people said about me, and it's all screenshots. None of them are links, because in that way it's always there. I have the links as well, but just to let you know, that's a good way to keep that. Don't think the internet's always going to be there, because sometimes something does go away, and that's not a good thing.
So the reviews you need it for when you do listing presentation, or
No, a review will be like how anything in the transaction. You know, like let's say the ultimate review is you did a deal and you closed escrow and the home is sold and you're either the listing or the buying side, and you ask for a review. Yay, that's great. But for instance, like this guy Daniel, you know, who I mentioned, that's at the senior community, technically he's referring all these people to me. He's not doing any buying or selling, but right now I could send him a review request and it'd be a great review. So I could do that. It could be people who I worked with before. There was a saleswoman I worked with years ago in the graphic industry, and I asked her for a review. So she put in there, you know, these are things I love working about, you know, with Rob. And that was one of my reviews. Does that help?
yeah. And what do you use the review for?
I use a review. I put it on my page. I also use it in social media a lot, because then you get something like, hey, this is something somebody said about me. I always appreciate reviews like this. This is how I really value my clients, you know, and even then, put the review, let the review speak for itself. Don't talk about yourself. Let the review speak for yourself. Show appreciation for it, because then it really shows your character coming through that, hey, you're coming from a grateful point of view. And people really tap into that. People really do appreciate that. So in here, you know, reviews. The other one, I kind of mentioned this, but regularly update and prune your database. I told you, I started off at 1600. I went down to 1201. I'm back up to 1244. And in that, that's been deleting, adding, deleting, adding, deleting, adding. And it's going to go on like that. So it's, you know, it's just like, hey, any of us who are engaged or going to get married, just because you say I do doesn't mean you're done communicating after that. If anything, you're communicating a lot more, because that relationship is growing and it's constantly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's a living thing. Same thing with your database. It's something you're continually want to do. And again, my greatest fear for me was I don't want to cut somebody out. And I actually learned to be the opposite of that now. Now I'm like, no, let me cut that person out, because I have people like my two Daniels that are giving me business, and now I can give them more time instead of wasting my time on somebody who's just, you know, sucking energy and time out of me. So that's what you want to do on that. And we're at the end, yay. So ahas. Want to ask, there's a few questions here. How's your thinking changed? Do you feel any differently? What actions are you going to take? And what tools do you think you might use? So your turn to talk, and I'll drink coffee.
I'm really impressed with how much effort you put into your database. I had no idea, but I can see as you talk how effective it's been, and so I have more of an idea of what successful realtors do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that caring and communicating with your friends, and it's number one leads, and they keep communication with them. That what leads to referrals.
Yeah, it's really, I didn't actually believe it at first. You know, it was the theory, and then it started proving itself. And even somebody else in my office, they emailed me the other day and they said, what are you doing right now? You know, what are you doing for your business? And I said, I'm just working my database right now. I said, I've got, you know, and I get the fact I have 1,200 contacts in my database. So it's a lot to take on, but I'm thrilled I can take it on. And so again, I totally understand if somebody's at 40 people in their database, they're going to work those 40 and then keep growing. And so that's what you need to do. Totally get that. But it's that, again, you want to work that 80%, or you're going to work that 20% that's going to give you 80% of the business. So when you take that approach, it's also so much more satisfying because you know these people. You're doing business with people you like. And you understand. They need to protect the house. That's just the way they are.
It's good to have them.
Oh yeah, yeah. But and trust me, I use these kids in all my marketing. I mean, if any of you've been to my Facebook, you know, that kind of stuff, there's photos of the dogs all the time because it adds a way of connecting. And again, I get people's, then they send me photos of their dogs and I'll keep those photos. And sometimes, you know, I'll put the names and I'll put that in my database and I'll do all that kind of stuff because it allows me to connect with them. And I had, now it didn't go anywhere, but because of that, I told you that I knew somebody who dog has passed. It was actually a chiropractor, and she had a good friend of hers that was thinking about selling a home. And she came up to me and she said, Rob, I really want you to sell the house. You know, I think you'd be great for this. I'm going to put you in touch with her, you know, and she ended up deciding not to sell, but that was because of being able to connect in that way. And all of it, I get the fact a lot of us have great intentions and we want to remember stuff, and you think you're going to remember everything as soon as somebody walks by, and 2 weeks later you're like, holy crap, where did I meet this person? You know, or that kind of stuff. And I did that at open houses where I'd have buyers come in, and a week later I'm like, okay, I know that came to this open house, but I don't even know what they want. So I started putting notes on everything. And then I would put that in my database, and it's made a big difference. I have buyers in Downey that, because I even just wrote it in the database, I remember Vincent and Kaysan, she's a social worker, he's a retired cop. They currently live in Downey, but they're looking for a bigger house and they need big closets because they have a lot of clothes. Am I brilliant? No, that's in my database. That's the reason why I remember that.
Sorry, may I talk? Elmas. Thank you, Rob, for your experience you share with us, and really you gave us the very important information to help to get the conversation with the client and customer, and also how we can build our database and network, and how we need to carry our customers. Thank you for that. And these are really my ahas. And I have a question. Actually, it's related to yesterday classes.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have any things, you know, about the sellers and buyers? First, which question we need to ask them? Important questions. The list of the questions. Of course, we are going to get this one in the times when we get the experience. It's going to be easy for us to do which question is important for it. For example, for the listing or for the buyer, we need to ask.
One thing, some of the scripts will take you through that, you know, and it'll get a little bit more detailed. But one of the things to always ask, what are their needs? What is somebody's needs? You know,
Yes.
what do they need to do? Do they, you know, if they're a buyer, when do they need to buy by? What are some of the things they need and what they need to purchase? You know, all of those things. Sell. What do they need to, you know, what's their important things that on selling? And again, the scripts will kind of narrow it down, but on some of that, because I've you know, looked at the scripts, I know some of the things to ask are, what's your timeline? You know, what do you, do you need to get the most out of the house? Usually most people do, or do we need to sell it as quick as possible? Do you want to, which do you want to do? You kind of get that feel. But again, it's all about what their needs are, why they need to do this. Once you find that out, that really helps you to strategize on how you can meet those needs.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and Ed just shared something. Oh, great. Thank you, Ed.
In the chat bar, I just put a buyer lead sheet that has a bunch of questions you can ask buyers, and the pre-listing questionnaire that has a bunch of questions for sellers. We're not going to get into right now. I mean, this is part of a system, but I will show you guys. Hold on, let me share my screen here real quick. So this should look familiar to you. So let me go back. Back one more. This is Keller Williams University, right? So if you go to kwconnect.com and you go to resources and you go down here to KWU, this is where you'll end up. And if you go here to Ignite 2.0 Lab, that's the class that we're teaching here. And if you open that up and you go to student resources or participant resources, it says download the Ignite Toolkit up here at the top. This has a bunch of resources in it. In fact, here I'll share this. Let me stop that. There's a bunch of resources there that include all these items here. Those two things I just put in the chat bar are there, but there's a bunch of other stuff too. You got a room survey, referrals, and the lead generation. I mean, there's all these are. There's a whole script book here, by the way.
Holy crap, that's really cool.
Yeah, this is really good. In fact, I can't wait to. I mean, this is a new version of Ignites. This is the first time we're teaching of it, and I haven't really gone through it piece by piece, but
that is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to tell you guys that one thing I came to KW for was because of the support and the education, and it's nice to be overwhelmed. There's so much out there that just KW offers. It's great. And our office is on top of it. I got to say, you know, you're not hearing this from me, but KW Whittier kind of sucks. And
there's a lot of information that really, you know, sometimes it's overwhelming. Like you can't
and don't let
get to all of them.
Sometimes that happens. It's like, oh my God, there's so much to do. What do I do? Don't let it freeze you. You just start. If you just start, it's like going to the gym. Get in the door, at least go in the door, you know? Once you're in the door, then start walking towards equipment. Once you're at equipment, look at it and see how to do it. Same thing here, you know, just start somewhere and then get going. Also, rely on people that you have around you. You know, our office is great as far as support. I'm not patting myself on the back because I can be highly creative. So when it comes to a lot of ideas, I can start spitting this stuff out. I almost said a bad word, but I can start spitting this stuff out. My problem is consistency. That's where I really hurt. And that's where I need a lot of help. And so if anybody has paid attention, a lot of times when I'm asking stuff from other experts in the office, I'm like, what do you do? I don't ask on like a lot of creative ideas. It helps. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. But it's like, how do they follow through? That's my area of weakness. For somebody else in the office, they're great on follow through. They just need to come up with ideas. And so that's when we're all bouncing off of one another. And as a whole, we're much stronger that way. So feel free to rely on people too in the office. If you have questions, ask a question.
Thank you.
well, this was great stuff. Should we wrap it up here, Rob?
Yeah, because I've gone way over and these people are probably starving.
All good, all good.
Yeah.
Well, it was wonderful to have Rob teach. I was getting a lot out of just hanging back and listening. So I can only imagine everyone else got a lot out of it too. We will be back tomorrow at 11:30 with Ignite. Actually, I take it back. We won't be back tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so we've got the team meeting. It's on the next Ignite class is going to be on Thursday. And I believe Joey, our team leader, might be teaching it. So that'll be a real treat. I'm pretty sure he's teaching it on Friday because I'm going to be out of town on Friday. But there you go. So, I know I had mentioned about leaving the line open between the 9 a.m. call and the 11:30 call at Ignite, so we could all lead generate together. And forgive me, I have been a little out of it the last couple of days, so I've not chosen to do that. But we'll probably get that going again soon. I've been just had a couple of a personal issue I was taking care of. So
how's your head? Is it okay now?
All right. So yeah, so I had a concussion and over the weekend, so I'm a little out of it. So yeah, I'm enjoying this dream that I've been in. I mean, I had the craziest dream. I dreamt that there was like a corona pandemic that happened, and then there was marching happening in the streets, and the Supreme Court all of a sudden came out in favor of LGBT. I was like, crazy.
Nice dream, right?
You know, wonderful, except the coronavirus part is just bizarre right now.
And everybody got unemployment.
Yeah. No, I'm doing much better. Thank you, though.
That's good.